All right, welcome to a brand new video of the Target Individual Program, Target Individual Experience. So again, also Target Individual Program. So again, Pam came home and she called me earlier, like around, was it minutes to 4, telling me that she wasn't going out anymore, blah blah blah. And and she kept repeating my favorite restaurant. And I'm just like, Pamela, why you talking to me about this? Like seriously, why? I want to know why. I said, you have not spoke to me in months in this way because because of whoever it is. I wouldn't even say months. I would say like about a year now. All of a sudden you want to act friendly, having conversations with me about this, and I'm like, listen, I don't want to hear that stuff. All right, I'm not falling into I've never fell for your manipulation, put it like that. But I'm not falling into that nonsense again, okay? I'm at the point where, it has taken years. Right, people. Right? It has taken me years to get to this point. And I told you that. I told you eventually, if you don't stop disrespecting me, if you don't stop doing the things that you're doing, eventually it will get to this point. And I told her this not to be mean, right? Not to be mean. Okay? See the white dude with the long hair looking up at the window over there? He looked at me and looked up at the window over there. Let me tell you, it's funny, right? I mean, they show me all the time that the image that they imprint in the minds of our women and the minds of our people, that it has taken root. That white savior mindset that our people have. All right? And anyhow, I don't want to hawk on that. But as I was saying to her, I said, look, it has taken me years to get to this point. Years of saying, Pamela, you got to put the children first, right? You got to such and such. No, I want to have my fun and this and that. I'm like, okay then, fine. But our children are going to suffer. My daughter didn't get to school until after 8:30 this morning. And I know it's not because of her. Because she went to bed at 9:30 exactly. Look. Got the flashlight, the phone flash. I look, she's grabbing her here. I got to do the same thing too, right? I'm telling them, they're playing, but I'm not playing. Oh, watch this. Got my flashlight on. You guys see it there? Oh. Oh yeah. Gotta give him a taste of their own medicine. That's it. Me already. One thing I love to do is expose their nonsense, their lies, and their foolishness. I say I was watching a video where you have these black women complaining about the dress code in the Houston rodeo, right? That they on Instagram, past not this year, because they have a dress code now, right? And the Nigerian females, they hate it. They don't want to dress appropriately, for the Houston rodeo, right? They want to dress like they're in the strip club. They want to dress like they're in the club. You know what I'm saying? It's a rodeo. It is a family affair, just like when you go to the state fair. Right now, the state fair is a little bit different, right? You can wear your little Daisy Dukes or what have you. But these women today are not even wearing the little Daisy Dukes, what they used to call Daisy Dukes, right? they're showing their entire cheeks, right? Matter of fact, the less they wear, the better, right? So you had this one nigga female talking about, that's the patriarch, and women should be free to wear whatever you want. What you gonna do? Start walking around the street naked now? You're gonna be walking around the street with your bathing suit? That's why there's something called, dressing appropriately, right? So you go to the beach, you can wear that shit. You go into the club, you can wear that shit, right? But you go into a family function, a family outing, event that is family oriented, and you want to dress like you're in a damn strip club, and you get upset because they tell you can't wear that. But I keep saying, until our women understand how they're being manipulated, how they're being controlled, how they're using religion to transform them into Jezebel, the Jezebel that Jesus spoke about in the in Revelations, right? I keep saying, my people, you have to understand the white mindset, the European psychological mindset when it comes to us as black people. Okay? They have a psychopathic and sociopathic mindset towards us. And you need to understand that. So they're turning our women into the Jezebels of the Bible because, they're just delusional with their religious BS. And it's unfortunate because religion has indoctrinated their minds to the point where, particularly when those who are religious fanatics are in position of power, right? That they will seek to bring an end to the world just so that they say, it's not about their savior coming back, not about just coming back. It's about it's about the fulfillment and the enjoyment out of seeing other people destroyed, right? And I say, what will happen when the war comes here? What will happen when the bombs start dropping in the United States? Right? What's going to happen? Because I'll tell you what, if I was a leader of a nation like China and Russia or even Iran, and there's an illegal war that has been waged against me and my people, right? Where my enemy is talking about invading my nation, I'm invading their nation. You understand what I'm saying? Without a doubt. You look at what, Russia and NATO. NATO, again, with these oligarchs, these wealthy Europeans and these wealthy white people across the globe, they have a sociopathic and psychopathic mindset. And Russia had said, listen, we don't want NATO encroaching on our borders, right? Just Ukraine has been a sovereign nation, right? And to Ukraine join in NATO, meaning that now NATO will put missiles in Ukraine to attack Russia. Now imagine if Russia was to do that with Mexico. Imagine if Russia had a partnership with Mexico or any nation in South America, right, to become part of their nation pact or their pact, whatever, to become allies, right, to the point where Russia is now capable of putting ballistic missiles in those nations. We wouldn't go for it. We would not stand for it, right? So then why do you expect Russia to accept what NATO is doing? When I talk about the hypocrisy and that we need to call them out on the hypocrisy, look, the Predator Department, yeah, fuck you. Look, as he was walking by, he put his hand in his pocket like he has a gun. And then the Predator Department said, I saw the lights flashing. Fuck them. Right? Yeah. Okay. They're all threat about my disability. Fuck it. Give my disability. Let's see what happens. Let me go put money in my account. Let's see what happens. Right? Because they do that, their ass getting banged on too. Like I said, when they threaten me or threaten any other TIs, particularly the New York Predators Dept who's threatening me, yeah, bang on their ass too. Let me see my soldiers. Let me see my soldiers. Right? We love to bang on each other, right? So let's see my soldiers start banging on these racist cops. Let's see it. Let's see my soldiers start banging on these Sambos and Sambinas. Let's see it. Okay? You don't get to threaten me and think that I'm going to just take it and be silent. That ain't going to happen. And the only reason why they doing it is because I exposed what it is that they did. I ain't no slave. I'll never be a slave. You understand? I'll be that Nat Turner. That's who I'll be. So stop playing, okay? Y'all the one that's radicalizing me, okay? And radicalizing me in a way that is going to be detrimental to y'all motherfuckers. So keep on going. Let's the lady go. Let the young lady go. How you doing, man? Tell you, my brothers, man, even the older one. Leave her in the back and they all run in front of her, right?
Nobody corrects nobody.
Yeah?
No one corrects nobody.
We are a lost people. We are a lost people.
No, in general, human beings done.
Now when it comes to our people are just lost, man. We have yet to quite understand the psychological conditioning that we're under.
The thing about it is people know better, but they don't care.
Nah, they don't know any better, my brother. If they know better, you do better. There's always that saying, right? If you know better, you do better.
No.
So if you're not doing better, then you don't know better. No, think about it.
That mental illness is real.
Because they don't know better. You understand?
It's like, for instance, how do people get on drugs?
Life circumstances, poverty, depression, partying. Your friends you might be having a good time, and your friends might say, "Okay, let me slip this in your drink." You know, that's all part of it.
I'll give you another way of getting the point. You get in a bad accident. Now you're an opioid fanatic.
Right.
Like you like that feeling. After it doesn't heal up, now you want to just continue doing it.
Yeah, but you can't.
Better.
But you can't. Here's the thing. You cannot ignore the circumstances in which people get on drugs, right? So you can't. We tend to want to always blame the individual without looking at the system. But it's the system that puts people in a position to where, and not to say everybody make that choice, right? But there are people who are more vulnerable within the society to be influenced in that way. You know what I'm saying?
That's why I don't argue. Like, I cannot judge people's situations like how I used to, because at the end of the day,
Right. That's right.
How are you, sir?
How you doing? Let me get you. All right, sit over here. Okay. Sit over. Yeah, well.
But the thing about it, you also do know better, but you continue and say that's
Let me. No. See, here's the thing, all right? When you live in a society in which you have a group of people that are a large group of people that are subjected to certain treatment, right? I don't know if you ever took psychology, but if you study psychology, right, and talk about social conditioning, right, in the modern day sense, right, we have what is called cognitive and neurocognitive warfare, right? You have people who are expert in the field of psychology, psychological manipulation, in order to do things to people within the society so they can profit off us, right? So here's the thing: when it comes to psychological conditioning, you do not see the conditioning. Very few people can, unless you study it, unless it happened to you and you become aware of it. So you don't see it. And this, go look up cognitive warfare. You'll get a good idea, right? So look at the crack cocaine era here in the United States, right? So how did they listen? How did a lot of people get hooked on drugs on the crack cocaine? One, poverty, right? Two, paying people within the community who are going to be dealing drugs and teaching them in ways to manipulate people to take drugs. You understand? Yeah. But I always say, look what happened with opioids, right?
Same thing going on. Because if you look at That's still something still like
Excuse me, sir. If you pay it with this and you put it here, it will take another
I'll be
fare.
honest with you, I don't know, but you can step behind that line.
Thank you, me and my sister.
Okay.
We did. Come on that way. Sit to the end.
Good night, Captain.
Good night.
We don't give you all enough appreciation, you know, for the work you're doing. Keep it up, man. I appreciate your appreciation.
All right.
Waiting like 30 minutes for that.
Yeah, man.
No, it's
So-
not a while.
So the movie you're talking about, Claudia, was that the one where with James Earl Jones?
Huh?
Was
That's
that
with
the,
Earl Jones.
yeah, James Earl Jones, right?
Yeah, when he was a garbage man and she had all them kids
Right,
and they couldn't, it was about welfare.
right.
But people still be in the welfare system now. But I've come to the realization that the Democratic community
Right.
wants us to depend on them.
But of course, yeah, of course. But here's the thing, yeah,
The moment you uplift yourself
right.
in a democratic society,
Right.
you lose everything.
Yeah, as a black man, right? Now also that too, but if you, here's the thing too, if you're a conscious black man, you will never get to the top because that is what they fear. They fear black people helping each other to uplift each
Oh,
other,
of course.
right? So the Democrat, right? The Democratic Party is all up.
I just came from the Jewish over there on 39th and 13th.
Right.
They have their own store.
Listen, the Democratic Party for the most part is about literally keeping black people in a perpetual state of insanity. Right? And the reason why I say that is because, again, let's talk about the welfare situation, right? There are over 60 million white people on welfare,
And we
right?
2%.
And the amount of black people that's on welfare is about what, 11? And that, when I say welfare, I mean, you know, healthcare and all that stuff, right? Okay. Right? So we talk about healthcare and other things, right? But yet, black people, particularly black women, are perpetually shown as being welfare queens. There are states in which white people are on welfare, and they're driving Mercedes, Benz, living in houses, and all that stuff, right? I don't know if you've ever seen this video where there was these white people on a golf course, and the black woman was there. The black woman was she was a coach, and they were saying to her, "Can we pay you in food stamps?" You know what I'm saying? The majority of people who are on welfare, the vast majority are white people, right? And then Hispanics, right? Black people are the third most group of people that are on welfare. But we are, again, when the Democratic Party love to do these talking points, is because they want to manipulate all of America into thinking that the people who are on welfare are black people. And the very same people who are on welfare, particularly in red, the majority are in red states, by the way, will say to a black person that's on welfare that they need to get off of welfare. You understand? So they've been conditioned to ignore their own social status and the fact that they're on welfare.
Because we live in New York City, right? We don't see this right in front of us.
We do see it right in front of us, but because most of us we're working class, right? And working class is not that far from you losing your job and end up having to be on welfare yourself. You understand? And that's a fact,
I want
right?
some food stamp bananas. I already have one of them houses for $3,000 a month to save my bread.
Listen,
I would
man.
do it for a certain amount
Listen,
of time.
here, listen. The biggest myth they teach you is that there's a job for everybody. That's the biggest myth, right? And then, if you do get a job, what kind of skills does it require that you're qualified for, right? There are many different factors in the society in which people work at many different jobs, right? So here's the thing, like I said, when they talk about work and all that stuff, there isn't one nation on this planet that has a job for every single person. You understand? You know what I'm saying? You know, like for example, if you let's take for example mechanics, right? If everybody wants to be a mechanic, they'll have so much mechanic shop that there will be no real there'll be too many competition, right? There'll be too much competition, right? And nobody will make any money. You know, it's what's called oversaturation. So what the Democratic Party does is to give us this false sense of reality that there's a job for everybody. There isn't. So that's why in good society and in good nation with good leadership, they understand that. So they create the social network programs, right? Because they understand that. All right? And everybody can be an entrepreneur. Yeah. But that's everything, man. I mean, we all select a leader, right?
But I've come to the realization that even with crime, right? They will never get rid of the drug dealers. You know why? That brings jobs.
Listen, the biggest drug dealers are licensed. Okay? The biggest drug dealers are licensed. Right. You know, the same drugs that they'll arrest a black man for or any other poor person for selling, you can get it in a pharmacy with a prescription. The exact same drugs. Right?
What I'm saying is, like, even if they knock down one kingpin, they're gonna put up another one.
Listen, they need crime. They need crime. You know what I'm saying? Like just like how they need poverty. Right? So poverty in America is a $500 billion a year business, meaning that there are businesses that serve the poor, right? And every year that's a $500 billion industry, poverty. Right? Now they can take $150 billion, right? And eliminate poverty. You understand? But there's too much money to be made in poverty, just like there's too much money to be made in crime. This society creates criminal because it profits off of the criminal mindset.
I know.
You know what I'm saying?
That's why, like, when you know all this stuff, you start going crazy.
But what they do to us is to have us become fear of each other, right? If you go into the white community, the poor white community, the crime is just as high. You understand?
Aren't they most of the mass shooters?
My brothers, 99% of them are white. Okay, so that's another thing, right? So again, if you go into the white community, the poor whites, they have the same issues, but they focus on black people because that's their sickness. They're obsessed with us, and you want to know why they're obsessed with us? Because they understand who we are. We don't. We don't understand who we are. Right? We have no idea, no clue. Okay. So when they say that, okay, they say they educate black people, their own historians tell you that black Africans educate the world. If the very first people on this planet were black people and they migrate out of Africa to settle in every corners of this planet, that means that the further back they dig, and they know this, they're going to turn them black. You understand? Other groups of people are nothing but us going through environmental adaptation to survive in those climates. You understand? So when black people went to Europe and get caught up in the last ice age, they adapt to become white. But the regression of the mind. There's Homo sapiens and Homo sapiens sapiens, which is us, which is us, the Neanderthal. Yeah, but Neanderthal was also African. Neanderthal is also African. Okay, go read.
No, I'm not.
I got enough for it.
If you read shit. No.
What stop you going to?
What stop you going to?
I get up 98. Okay.
All right. If you read Sheikh Anta Diop, the the history of Africa, right? African civilization. He tells you every iteration of human beings, which is there are 6 of them, right? There you can find them all in Africa, around the Great Lake region, right, which is where human beings developed. All 6 of them. Outside of Africa, you can only find 3, which is Neanderthal, Homo sapiens, and Homo sapiens sapiens, right? So the archaeological evidence is clear, right? You can find, even when the Chinese went to do their research.
First Chinese man was black.
Right. The first Chinese dynasty was of black people. So here's the thing: what happened in China, Korea, Japan, right? That the population got so white. Even in Northeast Africa, what they did is went on a whitening of the population. Okay. And if you know anything about in India, you know, the Germans, who they call the Visigoths, when they conquered India, which was black people, East Ethiopia was called, they raped millions of women in order to produce lighter offspring so they could lighten the population. You understand? History they don't teach you about, right? Even in America, the slave farm, right? After they ended slavery, there were about 2.5 million Africans. Within a decade, they had increased the slave population to over 10 million. Why? The breeding farm. So do you know how many children had to be produced every single year to get to that point? All right? So a lot of people in America, they're related closely than they know. This is something that they don't tell you about. They're not going to tell you these things. That is one of the most evil crimes that you can perpetuate on a group of people. And this is why white people are afraid. This is why they always think of us as being dumb and uneducated, right? Because they understand the history. They said, okay, we had breeding farms where we produced millions and millions of of young black people, right, of children. My brother, they are lying to us about so many things because they are afraid that if we get in a position of power, whether it be economically, whether it be scientifically or what have you, right. Well, anything to separate the financial market from Africa, from Asia, they don't want that. This is why they attacked Iran. Also, this is why they attacked Venezuela, kidnapping their president, because they're moving away from the Western financial market. Because white people are inherently violent. You understand? They are the ones who are inherently violent, and they perpetuate who they are onto us, right? What is called psychological projection, right? So they have to make us believe that we are the worst of them, right? And how do they do that? They do that by keeping the majority of us in perpetual state of poverty, right? Or the working class, okay? And every time black people as a group gain some sort of economic upliftment, just like how back in the days they used to burn down black towns, right. What did they do? They engage in predatory behavior, predatory lending, to wipe out the majority of black wealth that was gained over the past two generations. You understand? They just use the system differently. See, they're no longer burning down our businesses, our homes. They use economic manipulation. And you look at the amount of people who have, you know that black women are the number one group of women who buy houses? Black women are the number one group of women who buy houses. Right? But look at this, what happens though, because during the 2008 crash, the reason why black wealth got wiped out was because a significant home ownership was black women, right? And even today, and you see, there's been over 300,000 black women losing their job over the past year, right? Again, using the system to engage in predatory behavior towards us, and then when there's an economic upliftment, using that same system to take it back from us. You understand? So they do it in ways that they think that they're slick.
It's identification.
But that's another form of violence. You know what I'm saying? That we fail to recognize. All right? Because what is called is what they do is they displace the population. So that's just another form of violence, and we got to look at it for what it is. Now, if, you know, when we go by their terminology, right? We don't take it the seriousness of it. But when we understand the truth, then we look at it in the most serious mind. All right, take care, my brother. Oh yeah. Yep, always gotta have these conversations. You know what I'm saying? See the New York Predator Department there. I'll be talking to the bus driver. You know, and the bus driver looking like, you know. I was like, oh, all right, let me tell you. My people gotta really be educated. My people gotta really start to become educated and understand what's going on. You know, I was you know, it's funny too, because when I was in the store today with my daughter, and I picked up from school, we stopped by the store that I usually go to, Arab owned, and I was talking to the guy inside there. And you know, we was talking about Iran, and how, you know, Iran, that the Iranians actually developed their own weapon systems, right? They're the only nation in that part of the world that literally fund weapons research, scientific research. You know, everything that a nation needs to thrive, for a nation and its people to thrive, I should say, just like here in America. But we no longer fund scientific research. We no longer fund scientific development. We definitely don't do manufacturing, okay? And that's the fault of the wealthy people, right? And our indoctrination into believing their lies, okay? Because if they can make you blame China or Mexico and say that they're taking your jobs, right? But you're not looking at the owner of your company for giving your jobs away, you know, then it's like, what kind of brainwashing is that, right? I should say, what kind of magic is that? Because it is magic in a sense, right? And magic doesn't mean something that's supernatural. Magic means that when your mind is being manipulated to the point where you can't tell the difference between what's real and what's not, right? That's what they do. And how do they do it? By learning and understanding how your brain works. Learning and understanding how they can manipulate you, block your conscious mind from seeing things that is embedded in your subconscious. All right? See, they understand that, you know, the two minds, right? We have a conscious mind, we have a subconscious mind. They understand that. This is, you know, one of the sub-programs under the MK Ultra program was to see how many personalities they can create within the person. All right? So a lot of people walking around here with multiple personalities, not because they were born that way, but because there's an industry that was created to treat that sort of thing. LMF 3255 or 25, something like that. Number 32, right? So they've created a whole field so that they can profit off of. So they can traumatize people, so they can give people multiple personalities, they can give people mental illness, and then those that work within those fields, what do you think is going to happen? Or you think they're going to tell the truth when their livelihood depends on their lies? And then, you know, you go to therapy, they're no longer doing talk therapy. They just want to prescribe you medication. What kind of therapy is that? You know what I'm saying? What kind of therapy is that? Right? I keep saying, you got to look at the money. You got to look at the money. What's happening? What's going on? Right? You got to follow the money. Like I was telling the bus driver. I said, poverty is a $500 billion a year business. If they take $150 billion, they can eradicate poverty in America. But it's more profitable to keep people in poverty. Because now you can create all these different programs in which create other industries, right? Which again becomes multi-billion-dollar earning every single year, right? In a capitalist society, particularly in the West, right? Profiting off of people's misery is big business. Creating conflict, criminality is profitable, right? That's why they will never solve poverty, and they would never solve crime, because in order to do it, they have to fix the system. And like I told him, I said, he was talking. I said, there isn't a job for every single adult male. They're in any society where everybody within that society is going to have a job, right? And you have different fields. And what happened? When you have an oversaturation of certain fields, guess what? People can't earn a living, right? Because again, when you have, it's like supply and demand, right? If you have an oversupply, then you have less of a demand, right? When you don't have an oversupply, you have more demand, then you're gonna make money, right? You're gonna make a good profit, right? So they trick us into believing certain things. It's like the whole welfare thing he's talking about, because they always like to talk about welfare and shit like that, right? But the most people who are on welfare in America are white people. They don't belittle each other, right? But the same people who are on welfare would turn to a black person and say, you need to get off welfare and find a job, right? But they're getting welfare because their mindset is that it belongs to them. Even though you're working, you're paying taxes, right? But they believe that your tax is supposed to support them. This is the white mindset. All right, and again, that's not all of them, but that's the majority. And when I say the majority, I'm gonna be a little bit generous and say about 70%. You know what I'm saying? Believe that. All right, like I was telling myself, there was a video of a black woman who was a golf coach. All right, and so, she was, I guess these guys signed up for her, white guys signed up for her class, her coaching, and offered to pay her in food stamps. You know what I'm saying? Like, like I said, we just don't get it, do we? We just don't get it. They brutalize us while we're asleep, meaning that we're not conscious. They brutalize us when we're conscious, like Malcolm and Martin, right? One talking peace and Malcolm wasn't talking war. Let's get that straight, right? But one talking about little white boys and little white girls and all this children, all this stuff, all of this and that, holding hands and singing kumbaya, what have you. The other one is saying that if you attack me, as a man, I have a right to defend myself. I'm my people, right? That if you can come and beat me over the head, right? Why shouldn't I be allowed to defend myself and beat your ass over the head? Defensively, of course, right? Malcolm wasn't saying let's go and attack the police station, stuff like that, but the police will go, let's go into the black community and attack young black people or black people in general, because that's their mindset. And when you fight back, then it's like, they come up with this narrative about, these thugs, but the biggest thugs are on the police force. The biggest criminals are on the police force. The biggest pedophiles are on the police force. I posted a story of a black sergeant, who spent decades, right, serial SA, and using his position and his job to cover up his crimes. And there's a lot of them. That's the majority of the police department. All right, I posted another video of you have two lieutenants, right, male and female. The female walks into the elevator and she punched the male lieutenant. And this is here in New York, right? Again, we tend to, fuck you. We tend to ignore the fact that this is who these people are. Go look at the statistics, right? The biggest abusers when it comes to domestic violence are police officers in the military. Right? Go look at the Guardian investigative journalist report that talks about how, thousands of cops, of predator cops, who was accused of essaying women, children, right? They're allowed to retire with their pension, right? And we worship people like that because we talk about, oh, let's go to Dubai and such and blah, blah, blah. Let's go to, Saudi Arabia and such, right? When they have child marriage laws in which they can marry, they have child marriages where they can marry, adults can marry children. And don't forget the United States. The United States, most states in America allow you to marry children, right? But my people want to be dumb and stupid, right? They see a older white man with a young black woman, and good for you, girl. I hear you get that money, right? They see an older black man with a younger black woman, another child, and a younger black woman. They're upset. Oh, you're giving pedo vibes, right? You know what I'm saying? But do you know in the black community, the number one group of young people that are essayed annually are black boys? Do you know that? They don't tell you that, do they? And a lot of black boys are essayed by older women, right? Because, in our community, for a young man, for a teenage boy to go sleep with an adult woman, that's a flex. That's a flex, right? We are hypocritical because, again, we are believers. And we believe white people. You see all these wealthy people, white people, bunch of pedos, right? They're not going to jail. There's no outcry. Right? We buying Tesla from a racist white Elon Musk, right? And we proud of it too. Oh, I got a Tesla, right? This man is inherently racist, and he's not afraid to show it or say it. But we'll support that, right? But we won't support black people, black men and black women, right? We're not going to do that as a black man. We got to be damn near perfect, not a blemish, right? As a white man, they can have a criminal, they can be charged with SA, they can be accused of SA, all this stuff, right? And still rise to the highest office in America or in the West, right? They've been attacking, what's his name? Hugo Chavez. Is Hugo Chavez or Cesar Chavez? The Venezuelan leader that died. The man is dead, and they're trying to drag his name through the mud. From when? From an accusation by a woman who said that in the 1960s, right? He essayed her. Like, come on now. These people will find anybody and pay them money to make an accusation. And the way how this society is shaped is by false narrative, lies, manipulation, false accusations, right? And particularly in our community, what they do to our women is shameful. And my sisters need to wake up and understand what's going on. My brothers need to wake up and understand what's going on too. How they engage in the predatory behavior, right? By manipulating our minds in ways that we don't quite understand. Because it is a way to keep us under control. That's what that is. It is a way to prevent us from from any sort of upliftment to where we can help our people. They don't want that. They don't want that. And then you got the Sambos and Sambinas who are in those positions of authority that abuse their authority. Right? And so they will align themselves with the white supremacists because, criminals go hang out together. Whether they white or black, they got each other back. Like I told them, I said, you got more to lose than me. So anytime you're ready, I'm ready. But they will engage in the whole threat of assassination and shit like that because they're a bunch of cowards. And I say it over and over again. I'll say it in their face. Like I said, you have radicalized me in how you treated me and what you did to me, and then try to make it seem like I'm not a victim of your crimes. That's not going to work with me. All right? I am a victim, but I'm going to stand up and I'm going to speak out. And it's not having the victim mentality to say you are a victim. All right? Other groups of people who crimes have been committed against their people, they call themselves victims. But for black people, we can't call ourselves victims of racism, white supremacy, and the oppression done to us by white people on an everyday basis, every single day. Right? And the use of your job as a control mechanism. Right? So you got to understand how the society works. When we talk about the society being criminal, right, from its formation, because guess what? The people at the top, they got the cheat code. You know what I'm saying? They got the cheat code. And every time a black person is able to beat the system, when the system comes after them, they destroy that person's lives. Every time a whistleblower, whether they're black, white, Hispanic, have you, come and expose the system, they destroy those people. So the system is inherently criminal. And the system will destroy those who speak the truth. That's why I say, you know, it doesn't surprise me. Look, LLL 4032, something like that. 4932, something like that. Nice wait, number 32. A lot of number 32s today, right? But yeah, right. The system is what it is, and it does what it does. Right? We need to stop listening to what it is that they're saying and what's going and to see. So when I talk about, when they say, well, you know, you're guilty until proven innocent. No, you're innocent until proven guilty. That's what I said it the right way, though. Is that you are guilty first, and then you got to prove yourself innocent. Right? That's how it should be. Not based off of what they say, but based off of the actions that they do. Because anybody can accuse you of anything, and you will go to jail. And then you got to prove yourself innocent. Right? And then when you prove yourself innocent, you're still going to have an arrest record. You're still going to have, you may not have a conviction record, but you're still going to have a criminal record based off of an accusation. They don't wipe your name from the system. They don't remove your prints from the system. They keep it, even though you're innocent. Right? And why do they do that? Again, profiting off of your personal information. Again, why is it that, you know, that when you look at the things that happen in society, the sale of our personal information to the tune of over $600 billion a year, and that's going to rise exponentially within the next decade. Are you seeing any of that money? And not only that, but the government buys your personal information too. Imagine that, right? A country that says it is a free nation, it is a nation of laws, it is a nation of morality, but it is the most immoral, have the most unjust laws, right? And freedom is only afforded to those that are silent, right? And those that are wealthy. Because the minute you start speaking the truth, they take away your freedom. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I don't say these things just to say it. I say because not only my lived experience, but I do the research. Right? So the Nigerians will act as if they're this and that, but they're a bunch of dumbasses. That's all. So they walk around feeling all jolly while they destroy another black man's life, because guess what? That black man wanted to do something for them. Right? That is the irony, and that is the stupidity of Nigerians. That they will stop anybody based on these racist white people, based on these sellout Sambos and Sambinas, right? Who are based off of jealousy and envy, right? But they're not doing anything for the community, and they'll say, well, what are you doing? Like, really? Really? You know, so first they have to take away your ability to do anything, right? And then they're going to try to, like, do these jabs, these digs. You know, what do you do? What can you do? I mean, it's the saddest shit, man. It really is. But it makes me angry that my people have been reduced to this level. It does. Right? No social responsibility amongst the wealthy amongst us. You know, the churches have become a joke, a circus. Our women are complaining about because they can't wear booty shorts to the damn rodeo with little children there, that they're so upset about it. Like, what is going on? I mean, I keep telling you guys what's going on. Cognitive warfare, neurocognitive warfare. Right? They have replaced who we are into who they want us to be. And we have no idea. No idea. No clue. But anyway, if you go, you look up cognitive warfare, neurocognitive warfare, go and look up silent sound spectrum used for mind control. You'll see what I'm talking about. The information is out there. Always gotta laugh. Thank you. How you doing, my sister? Mind if I have a little conversation with you? What are your thoughts on the, you have a lot of our younger sisters complaining about the Texas rodeo because they can't wear booty shorts. The Texas rodeo? Because they're upset because they can no longer wear shorts that show off their whole cheeks. So they're.
I don't even know what I heard people talk about it, but I wasn't even following. I don't even know what happened.
I mean, I know back in your younger days you wasn't dressing like that, right? I think today our young women have been conditioned to where they're over sexualizing themselves.
Less is more to them.
Right, exactly, right? So I was watching a video and one of these women, younger women, they're like, well, it's the patriarch and we should be free to wear whatever we want to wear and do whatever we want to do. And I'm just like, yeah, but it's a family outing.
The thing is, like, if you come to my house, I have a policy.
Right.
You can't respect that, then don't come.
Right.
So are you going to go to these people's thing and tell them how you want to
Right,
shape?
because
No.
you see, they want to impose the way they dress onto people and not be held accountable for it at all. All right?
I don't agree.
Yeah, like I said all the time, I said, listen, yeah, you can wear whatever you want to wear, but there's still places where they tell you to dress appropriate. And, what I find within the past 2 decades is that they have brought the stripper mindset into the public, right? And the porn star mindset into the public. It is what it is. I mean, but we don't understand. A lot of older people, and I don't know about you, but I'm 30. I said I'm 30 years old. I look young, right? No, I'm not just kidding. I'm 50. I'm gonna be 55. And I remember growing up, like even when a woman would wear something that's risky, it was never to that point. She might wear shorts that just reach right underneath her butt, right? And that was risky. Today, they're walking around with see-through outfits, with a thong on, and that they feel that's appropriate to walk around and to go to family functions like that.
I'm sorry for the I'm sorry for my environment. Because the women of today don't value morals.
I always say, right, if we understand psychological manipulation, we'll understand also how particularly white people who have used the Bible to enslave our people are using the very same Bible today to turn our women into the Jezebel that's in the Bible.
Exactly.
You understand? So they take those biblical narratives and transfer it onto us in the worst way, because they have to create a narrative in which other groups of people can see us in a negative light. Right? So this is why they promote on television a lot of the ratchetness that you see, because to the rest of the world, when they see a black woman, particularly today, if you go to Europe, they are very disrespectful towards our women because of what they see on American television. You know what I'm saying? So we're not, for those, and I understand the reason why a lot of us don't say anything, Because one of the things that they do is that they will cancel you. They will get you. They will attack your job. They will get you fired. They will do all these things because it is the mindset that is created within the mind, particularly with young women today. Cognitive warfare is something. It is a psychological programming in which you do not see. I do. I mean, I can see it, but majority of people cannot see it, right? And NATO tells you, if you go, NATO had this over the past half a decade. They have this big symposium every year that talks about cognitive warfare. And what is that? Is when nations, governments, its security agencies use psychological manipulation as well as false narrative and propaganda to shape who you are, to give you a new personality, right? To suppress any sort of
started from slavery, and they're still doing it today.
it's still yeah, exactly, they're still doing it today, and they use technology. So what a lot of us don't quite understand is the use of the radio wave and microwave frequency spectrum.
Algorithm.
Not just algorithms, but
I'm saying all those things.
Right.
That they don't. Our people don't understand.
in the 1960s, right, and when the CIA was running this MK Ultra program, they had two doctors, Dr. Jose Delgado and Dr. Robert Heath. Dr. Jose Delgado was using radio wave frequency to manipulate people's minds, right? Dr. Robert Heath was specializing in how that he can turn a straight person to become gay and a gay person to become straight. They spend billions of dollars studying psychology, studying the human mind, to where that they can manipulate any and everybody. When you look at, when you look at mentalists, you ever watch a mentalist like Kurt Angle or Darren Brown, right? He has a YouTube channel, Darren Brown. And this man walked into a jewelry store with Darren Brown. He walked into a jewelry store, right? And he cut pieces of paper in the shape of money. Nothing on the paper, just white paper. Bought a change for $2,500, counted the money out in front of the guy, and left out the store. A minute later, the guy went into the cashier. He saw there was a blank piece of paper, and he ran out the store looking for him. But that was a social experiment because there are people out there that's showing us exactly what they can do. You know what I'm saying? You know, when you look at, sometimes you look at some of these people who target the elderly, right? Who can get them to go into their house and get all their money that they save and give it to them because they use the religious angle on them. They have also learned how to manipulate people's minds, right? And I always say this, in America, as black people, they keep us at low percentage in certain fields. Technology, science, psychology, economics, right? So only 4% of psychiatrists in America are black, right? Law, again, very, remember, in the single digits. But here's the thing, in order for people to thrive in any society, you need to have at least 15 to 20% of those people into certain fields, right? So whether it be medicine, psychology, economics, then as a group, those people will thrive.
That's why Jewish people thrive.
Right.
They have their own everything.
They have their own everything, and when you look at the field of technology, medicine, whatever, they are at least 30%. Yep.
Their money circulates within them at least 10 times before it goes out to the public.
Yeah, of
to the
course,
rest of the world.
of course. But guess what? When it comes to black businesses, we don't quite understand how black businesses are sabotaged, right? They're sabotaged. You look at how these Jewish real estate agents, they steal black people's home. You know what I'm saying? They use the water company, the electric company, to send black homeowners bills that are not the total amount of bills, and within 2 years, they send them a big bill that they can't pay, and then they come and take their home. Right? They engage in all sort of lies and manipulation, and we don't quite understand it. Right? They will listen. They will go to the phone company. They will recruit people. They will pay them to do these things. Right? So when you look at the reality of it, like I said, when I look at black people, I understand what is being done. Most of us don't. The vast majority of us don't. Right? When you look at wealthy white people, Jewish people, Hispanic people, they have what is called social responsibility to their group. They create jobs. They do all of this. The wealthy people amongst us, the wealthy black people, don't do that. They don't do that. The churches, I said about the churches. These churches should be investing in real estate, right? Just the Jews do it, the Mormons do it, right? The Seventh-day Adventists do it. They should be. They just give. It's to take. Right, because their job is to take from us and to keep us in poverty. You understand? And you know the interesting thing is that, like I said, I used to be a Christian. So, but in the Bible it tells you that, right? When they talk about the so-called Promised Land and the people of the Promised Land, it says that those people in that land will be a blessing to other nations. Now, which land on this planet that is, and the people that has been a blessing to everybody else? It's black people. Africa, mineral resources. The enslavement of African people created the Western financial market. You understand? But here's the thing though. We view the Bible as it being literal, but it is meant to teach us history in a way that was simplified. You know what I'm saying? So the whole slavery thing, slavery been going on since the beginning of time. Sure. Alright, so I said, slavery has been going on since the beginning of time, but it was a different form of slavery. What the Europeans did was the most horrible form of enslavement that you could put upon another person, a group of people. Right? And this is why they don't want us to succeed. Right? Because any time they see a black person succeed, they got to destroy you. Whether they compromise you, and they will use other black people to do it too. Right? So without any form of consciousness, we're going to continue to be pushed to the bottom. You understand? So for when my family's very religious, and I always say to them, I say, in the Bible it tells you that my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, right? But the churches don't teach knowledge. Then there's another part of the Bible that says that you priests and Pharisees who have taken knowledge away from the people, right? Well, people think that just by reading this book that they have knowledge. That's not knowledge, right? Yeah, you know the Bible, but do you really? Because if you are ignoring and you are running away from knowledge, it shows you that the fear that they've put into your subconscious mind, right? And here's the thing: black people always talk about Jesus Christ is the truth, but yet we are the only group of people who run from the truth. We run from the truth. We don't like to be told the truth. Right? So we have to, like I always say, to the woman, I say, if a man is honest with you because he cares for you, he loves you, he may not tell you what you want to hear, but he's going to tell you what you need to hear. And if you are turned off from that and only want to hear what you want to hear, right, that is a path that will end up into your own detriment, right? Because I always say, you got to be able to speak truth, and you got to be able to be comfortable with the truth, right? Listen, I'd rather the honest truth than the lies. Right? Yeah. So I have always been about truth, and I learned that from a very young age, because we are taught lies, all right, and we are taught to manipulate each other. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, good talking to you, my sister. Take care. Have a good night. Appreciate it. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It is something that, like I said, I continue to talk about because these liars. But like I said, they're gonna get theirs. They're gonna get theirs. I remember Dr. Fred Price Jr., who was on television and just talking a whole bunch of nonsense. We welcome the destruction of other people based on biblical narrative that just tells the history of certain groups of people warring with each other, creating their own god, and fighting each other in some of the most barbaric ways. And it's been sanitized. And so when it comes to biblical narrative and our so-called belief in this God, we'll excuse some of the most harshest and cruel crimes, including the enslavement of African people. When I hear Negropeans talk about, well, if it wasn't for slavery, you wouldn't know Jesus. Like stupid shit like that. You're right, stupid shit. Why? Because in Ethiopia, right, in the 2nd century, when Christianity was brought into Ethiopia, the Ethiopians, black Africans, they knew Yeshua. Not the Yeshua, not the Jesus that they worship today, right? You know what I'm saying? When they went into what is called Nigeria today, right, they met Hebrews. So when, again, our education is based off of lies, deception, manipulation. All right? And we have to become conscious of these things. So when I say I can see the condition of the program, is because I have spent over a decade and a half studying what it is that they do, learning what it is that they do. The Jewish guy. When they start using the Jewish people, they try to invoke some sort of anger. They want me to be like, oh, look what's happening in Israel. Now they're being this. Listen, I am never going to celebrate, the destruction of people. Never. Okay? I will always put the blame on those in positions of power, because they're the ones that manipulate the people. They're the ones that lie to the people. They're the ones that deceive the people. So you're not going to get a joy out of me watching, Palestinians being killed, Israelis being killed, Iranian being killed, or any group of people being killed. Okay? But what I will say is that when a group of people, right, participate, enjoy the mass killing of another group of people, don't expect sympathy from me when it happens to you. So I'll say that, okay? But like I said, they know how to manipulate people, but they can't manipulate me. Not anymore. And this is why they're upset. This is why. So no, you will not hear me being joyful or happy about any group of people being killed, right? Because ultimately, like I said, it is the people who are being misled by leaders who are wicked, evil, deceptive, psychopathic, or sociopathic, the dark triad personality traits. Listen, I understand the reason why you would want people like that to be leaders, right? But they should have at least some sort of empathy. I know it's hard, right? Because you need to have that dark triad personality trait when it comes to war. But you don't go out there and attack another nation unjustly because you want to conquer their land. You don't go and genocide a group of people because you want to take their land. You don't do that. All right? And so, like I said, what's going to happen when the war comes here? What's going to happen when the missile starts flying over our head? Because I'll tell you what, eventually it will happen. If the leadership in this nation don't change, if the leadership in other nations don't change, if the leadership stop the greed that they are obsessed over, eventually there'll be nothing left for them to profit off of. And then what? Then what? Anyhow, I'll see you there. I'll see you over there, lady. I see you over there, lady. You want me to look? She want me to look over there. Look at her. Look, she want me to look over here. see how she turned to the side? Look. Let's see if I can, am I getting her? Yeah, all right. Okay. So yeah. So I'm gonna turn to the side too. I see you looking. Yeah, I'm turning to the side too. Already out. These people are hilarious, man. They're hilarious. Let me see before I forget. What? Oh yes. So Pam came in the house. She was wearing a gray and black dress, and as I'm getting ready to leave, she goes and she stands up in front of the door, and I'm just like, I said to her, I said, really? I said, you doing this again? You doing this again, huh? You know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, wow. This woman, like I say, the mind. When I talk about the mindset, the destructive mindset, this is what they do, right? This is what they do. Any sort of correction, they don't want. Any sort of criticism in the slightest, they don't want. But they'll criticize you, right? They'll tell you, oh, you need to change. I don't need to change. I'm too old. I'm good. I don't need to change for nobody. This is what this is their mindset. This is their mindset. I tell all the time, I said, you're always going to be sick because you're reactive instead of being proactive. You're always going to end up in relationships where it's just going to be about sex because you refuse to change who you are. You refuse to. So no man is going to take you seriously. No man is going to see any good qualities within you, because eventually when you pretend, eventually the truth is going to come true. It's going to show. I got to fix my daughter's dresser tomorrow, and I tell her, I said, listen, I used to. I mean, it's just sad when I talk about it, because the fact that she could have had her apartment cleaned, and I wouldn't mind doing it if she had kept it semi-clean. But the whole disrespectful thing of me not telling her what you can't tell me what to do, is my house, and well, if I'm cleaning your house and I got to come back and clean it, yeah, I'm gonna say something, because you're not doing it, right? So that mindset, like I said, people like that, whether they're men or women, right? When they have a certain personality and they have an inability to change, right? Eventually, people is going to see the truth. Right? People are going to see, it's like, our women today always blaming black men. But when you look at it, it isn't black men, it's them. It's their refusal to look at the reality, to look at the truth. It's their refusal to understand what's going on. It's their refusal to put their children first. It's their refusal to put their health first. It's their refusal to understand men. It's their refusal to know what men want in a woman. Not to give a man what you feel that you should give him as a woman, and he should be happy with that, while you expecting him to be every damn thing that you want. Right? So it is their refusal is the reason why, again, and I understand, listen, it's their conditioning. We are being manipulated to fight against each other. All right? But I'm gonna keep speaking the truth, and I'm gonna keep exposing what it is that they do. All right? Talk to you guys in the next video.